Hello everyone, today we venture into the treacherous, twisted underworld of Aberration, a place where survival is not just a challenge, but a relentless battle against the very elements that seek to consume you. This was once a stable ark, a haven meant to sustain life, but now it lies in ruin. Its protective atmosphere shattered, leaving the surface scorched by an unforgiving blaze of radiation. The world above is a wasteland, but beneath its charred exterior lies a labyrinth of biomes, each more dangerous and extraordinary than the last. Surviving an Aberration demands more than just bravery, it requires knowledge. In this video we will cover everything you need to know to stay alive, from gathering essential resources to understanding the volatile weather patterns, from outsmarting new and dangerous creatures to uncovering the most valuable of loot. You'll explore new gear, advanced structures, hidden caves, and ultimately face one of the most fearsome bosses in Ark, Rockwell. In the depths of Aberration, life has not only endured, it has mutated and evolved in ways that defy imagination. The creatures here, born of intense radiation, possess powers that are both awe-inspiring and terrifying. This is a world where only the strongest will survive, and in this video I will arm you with the knowledge you need to navigate one of the most hostile environments ever created. Prepare yourself for a journey into a land where every step could be your last. Welcome to Aberration. To conquer this world, you must first understand its geography. Aberration is divided into three main regions, each with its own set of challenges, dangers, and rewards. First, there's the fertile region, or also known as the green zone, where life clings to semblance of normalcy, though danger lurks around every corner. Here you encounter creatures like Ravengers, Raptors, Spinos, Basilisks, and Carcanos, each ready to strike at the unwary. Do not be fooled, this is no safe haven. This is a battleground. Next is the bioluminescence region, where the temperature drops and the landscape glows with an eerie, otherworldly light. But beware here, the air itself can kill you. Deadly mushrooms freeze the blood in your veins, and lurking in the shadows are the nameless. Do not let the beauty of this biome go through and seduce you. Finally, we descend into the element region, where radiation seeps into your very bones, poisoning both you and your tames without proper protection. A radiation suit is not just a recommendation, it's your lifeline. Fail to wear one, and you'll soon find yourself a meal for the terrifying beasts that dwell in these depths. Now that you have a foundational understanding of Aberration, it's time to dive into the finer details of this complex map, beginning with the essential resources you'll need to survive. We'll start with the most common materials, stone and flint, which can be harvested from rocks just as if you are on any other map. And a Doedicurus remains your go-to companion for efficiently breaking apart these boulders. However, Aberration does introduce a new resource, fungal wood, and this can be gathered from trees and the larger mushrooms scattered throughout the environment. For this task, a roll rat, a creature unique to Aberration, will be invaluable. Additionally, you will go through and collect thatch while farming for wood, which of course will be crucial for building materials. As you venture deeper, rare resources become more accessible. Given that Aberration lacks the expansive mountainous regions found on other maps, the distribution of rare materials like crystal, metal, and obsidian is quite different. In fact, the deeper you descend, the more abundant these resources become. One of the key resources to seek out is crystal, which can be found in tandem with a new material, gems. These gems come in three varieties, green, blue, and red, each corresponding to a specific zone. Green gems are located in the fertile zone, blue gems in the bioluminescent area, and red gems in the element zone. As you gather these gems, you'll accumulate crystal. Though pure crystal deposits are there, they are far less common. Metal is another resource that is scarce in the early stages of the game. There are metal nodes that are scattered throughout the fertile region, and it is advised to go through and set up a base near these nodes for quick harvesting in the early game. However, for those seeking larger quantities of metal, they should venture into the bioluminescent, the element, and the surface areas, with the bioluminescent region being particularly rich in metal deposits. Taming an Ankylosaurus, which can be found in the bioluminescent region, is highly recommended for efficient metal harvesting. Also, to go through and transport your haul back to the base, you could go through and consider bringing a Carcanos to carry the Ankylosaurus, or a pack of Ravengers to serve as pack meals. Now, obsidian is just like metal, as that it can be found in the same regions, except for the fertile area. Now, silica pearls are common in the fertile lakes and some of the bioluminescent ones as well. For optimal pearl harvesting, tame yourself an anglerfish from the bioluminescent area and use a fish net or a cryopod to transport it to these regions. This method will go through and yield far more pearls than gathering them by hand. Now, black pearls do have their own clusters here on Aberration, and they can be located within the element region, particularly near the Rock Drake Trench. Harvesting these pearls is risky, as you'll need to go through into dismount to collect them, but this is one of the best ways to farm black pearls on any story map. Now when it comes to polymer, Aberration offers a couple of options. You can go through and look for certain plants in the element region and farm those to gather yourself some organic polymer. Now for those seeking a somewhat safer alternative, you can go through and look to defeat a Carcanos and harvest its corpse to gain yourself some organic polymer. While using a chainsaw might seem like a viable choice, as you do now have access to that engram due to the fact that in ASA you actually have engrams from all the maps, I've actually done some recent tests and that suggests that moss chops are the best way to go through and acquire the highest yield for organic polymer. I will link that test for you in the description. Now, oil is a particularly challenging resource to gather on Aberration. Traditionally, oil nodes are found either in the mountains, the snow, or even underwater. Now here they are located on the surface or in the element region. However, both of those are quite challenging regions. So if you are looking to just get started off, some alternative methods for obtaining oil is you can go through and hunt trilobites in the rivers, but just understand this will typically yield a very small amount. Now you could also go through and tame yourself some dung beetles and they will passively generate oil for you. It is advised to tame multiple of them as the generation can be quite slow. Now the final method to go through and obtain oil is actually killing seekers, which are a new creature introduced in Aberration. They do actually go through and have the possibility of dropping oil when they are defeated. Now of course seekers are in areas that are typically unsafe, so you will want to go through and have yourself a powerful mount to be able to go through and farm these guys to acquire quite a bit of oil for whatever it is that you need. Finally, there are two additional new resources, gas balls and element ore. Gas balls can be collected using gas collectors, a process similar to gathering water and oil on scorched earth. Now element ore is found in both the element region and on the surface, with the surface typically yielding larger quantities. Now let's dive into the critical aspects of Aberration's weather and environmental hazards. First, let's address the dangers posed by the various types of mushrooms scattered throughout the map. While they may seem like simple harvestable resources similar to the bushes you collect berries from, certain mushrooms carry severe risks. Specifically, be cautious of the blue mushrooms with a dark blue base found in the bioluminescent area, and the red triangular mushrooms that cluster in the fertile region. Although all mushrooms can be harvested, these particular varieties have dangerous side effects. Blue mushrooms can induce instant hypothermia, while the red mushrooms cause intense hallucinations. The hallucinations are especially perilous, as they not only distort your vision with colorful imagery, but also cause uncontrollable changes in direction, relentless defecation that leads to rapid hunger, and even suffocation. This suffocation effect overrides your oxygen levels, making it lethal regardless of your current air supply. These effects are not just dangerous for players, but also harmful to shoulder-mounted creatures. So caution is imperative, because the last thing you want to happen is to have your light pet die because you ran into a mushroom and then the nameless come out. Now fortunately the cure often lies close to the source of the problem. Consuming aquatic mushrooms grants temporary immunity to freezing debuffs or luminous poisons, while agravaric mushrooms provide protection against hallucinations or fertile poisons. It is advisable to keep a stack of each type of mushroom on your hotbar for quick access in case you encounter these hazards. Additionally, wearing a radiation suit will provide immunity to all status effects caused by mushrooms, making it an essential piece of equipment in these environments. In the fertile zone, your primary environmental concerns are these hazardous mushrooms and the creatures that inhabit the area. However, as you venture into the blue zone, a new threat emerges: the nameless. These creatures spawn throughout the blue and red zones and can quickly overwhelm an unprepared player. To combat them, you'll need a light pet, which will cause the nameless to retreat. Without a light pet, you'll soon find yourself surrounded by these aggressive creatures. If they are not dealt with swiftly, one of them will transform into an alpha variant, a much larger and tougher version. Failing to manage the nameless will eventually lead to the summoning of a Reaper King, one of the most formidable enemies in the depths of Aberration. Now the red zone introduces another layer of danger: radiation. This radiation affects both players and tame creatures. Without a radiation suit, you'll succumb to the radiation poisoning within seconds. Tame creatures, unless they are naturally immune to radiation, will take continuous damage. You can go through and feed them some mushroom stew to give them immunity for roughly 120 seconds. Now, the list of creatures that can traverse the radiation safely is available on the Arc Wiki and is worth consulting before venturing into these areas. Aberration also features two unique environmental events. The first is earthquakes, which are an exclusive feature of this map. Earthquakes cause the ground to shake and debris to fall from above. Although the falling debris does not damage survivors, dinos, or structures, the tremors can displace your character, sometimes significantly. The deeper you go into the map, the more disruptive these movements become, making it difficult to mount a dino or to navigate tight spaces. Also, these tremors are especially amplified when swimming, so be cautious when swimming or when you're near cliffs or ledges, as the tremors can easily push you off. Another thing to look out for during earthquakes is the risk of falling while using climbing picks or a zip line. Although you will remain attached to a surface during an earthquake if you are using the climbing picks, if you attempt to move while the ground is shaking, your climbing picks may detach, causing you to fall. However, it is possible to go through and climb during an earthquake if you are careful and time movements in between the shakes. Now, earthquakes also drop debris, which can yield small amounts of resources. Each resource appears as a single unit, such as a rock or a small bundle of wood. Occasionally, high-quality equipment like a shotgun or a sniper rifle may also drop, though this is a rare occurrence. The type of resources dropped will vary depending on the biome that you're in when the tremor takes place. And the second environmental event is Aberration's unique day-night cycle, which differs significantly from other maps. The cycle is divided into seasons, with each season representing a year in the game. The season lasts for 10 in-game days, starting with a balanced 50% day and 50% night on day 0, which is essentially just a normal day-night cycle. Now, as the season progresses, the ratio changes, such as a 90% day and a 10% night by day 4, resulting in a surface engulfed in flames for nearly the entire day, leaving only brief periods to gather resources before retreating back underground. But by day 7, the cycle flips to 10% day and 90% night, giving you much more time to explore the surface safely, if you could call a surface that's completely covered in Reapers and Seekers safe. Either way, it is crucial to track which part of the cycle you are in to avoid being caught on the surface when it is ablaze, as this could quickly lead to your demise. Now, let's go through and discuss one of the most exciting aspects of any adventure: loot. Everyone loves loot, and knowing where to find it is crucial to your success in Aberration. Now, there are 3 primary locations where you can find drops. First, you will encounter standard drops that appear underground in all 3 of the main regions. These drops are similar to the typical supply drops you would find on any other map descending from the sky. However, in Aberration, they have the appearance of cave drops, blending seamlessly into the subterranean environment, so they can be a bit more difficult to spot. It is good to go through and memorize any drops that you do see, as you can go through and check for them in the future. Now, next we have the actual cave drops. As with other maps, these are located within caves and generally offer better loot than what you would find outside. Exploring these caves can be rewarding, as the drops often contain valuable items and blueprints that can give you an edge in survival and combat. And finally, we come to the surface drops, which offer some of the best loot available in Aberration. Whether you're searching for a high-level rock tray saddle or a blueprint for a powerful shotgun, the surface is where you'll find top-tier gear. However, the rewards come with significant risk. The surface is a hostile environment, and while the loot is highly valuable, it requires careful planning and execution to obtain. You'll often need to dismount your creature to gather loot, all while invading Reapers that relentlessly pursue you. The experience is adrenaline-fueled, similar to Sealing Wyvern or Rock Dry Gates, where every single drop you grab is hard-earned and a thrilling experience. Speaking of loot, Aberration offers a wealth of new engrams to unlock, with over 30 new items that can significantly enhance your gameplay experience. First, there's the glow stick, a new source of light, and the charged battery, which is essential for powering the charged lantern, which is your best friend for dealing with the Nameless. This is a vital tool for navigating Aberration's darker regions and keeping the Nameless at bay and preventing the spawning of additional, larger, much scarier creatures. Next, we have the fish basket, a tool that allows you to catch and transport wild fish. While its inclusion in ASA is still uncertain, especially considering that we have cryopods prior to Aberration releasing, it is still a useful item though for those who wish to capture the vibrant and colorful fish found in Aberration's water, so I am really hoping they do go through and still release it and keep it in the game. Now, other interesting additions include a stylish shag rug for your base. Also, there is a new cliff platform available in both a stone and a metal variant, providing a unique way to build on the map's vertical terrain. For more tactical movement, the zipline anchor and the zipline motor attachment allow you to traverse the map quickly, while the climbing pig and glider suit add a new dimension to exploration. And the radiation suit is another crucial addition, which you saw earlier, offering protection from the map's radiation, making it one of the most important armor sets that you can craft on Aberration. Then we have the gas collector, which is another essential item, enabling the harvesting of the congealed gas balls, a key resource in Aberration. And of course, there are the new settles for the map's unique creatures, such as the Rock Drake and the Roll Rat. And then there are, of course, the 3 tech Engrams as well. The tech Railgun, which is essentially just a fancy upgraded version of the fabricated sniper, the tech Rock Drake settle, and the Sleeping Pod, which will go through and grant you passive experience while you are idle or logged off. Alright, now let's dive into the unique creatures you'll encounter on Aberration. Many of the creatures you find in this map are the aberrant variety, which means they have 4% less health, deal 6% more damage, and possess a distinctive glow in the dark. Do keep in mind as well that aberrant creatures cannot breed with their non-aberrant counterparts. Now here are some key creatures and some tips for managing them. One is the Achatina. Found in the blue zone, Achatinas are excellent for passive collecting cementing paste or Achatina paste, and this is crucial since Aberration lacks beaver dams. Then there is the Angler, which is located in the blue zone, and anglers are highly efficient at farming silica pearls and are worth taming for this resource. Then the Enki, who is essential for gathering metal, and of course they are also found in the blue zone as mentioned previously. Then there is the Arthroplora, and I specifically mention them here in the blue zone as you do want to go through and avoid their acidic spit, because if you are making a journey down farther into the depths, and if you get hit with that, the moment any piece of your radiation suit breaks, you will lose the ability to withstand the radiation. And then the Baryonyx does make its return, found in blue zones, and is particularly effective for completing the cave in the bioluminescent area. Then there is the Basilisk, a formidable creature that can spawn in the starting regions and all throughout the map. They are uncommon, but they also can appear in groups, and you can go through and tame these using the Rock Drake eggs. And then there is the Frogger. Also found in the blue zone, frogs can go through and consume glowbugs for cementing paste, providing an alternative to taming Achatinas. Then there's the Bulldog, one of the first creatures you will encounter. Bulldogs serve as the initial light pet and are easily tamed with either the plant species Z-seeds or aquatic mushrooms. Now, the infamous jellyfish makes a return, haunting the waters of the blue zone and the cave in the bioluminescent area, making the Baryonyx an excellent companion for that specific cave due to the jellyfish being present. Then there is the Dimetrodon, which is found in the blue zone, and they are useful for hatching eggs and providing temperature regulation. You'll find dire bears in the fertile zone, and they are powerful and quick, especially when running in a straight line. They are also helpful for harvesting honey from the abundant hives you will find in the fertile zone, and that honey can then be used to tame the roll rat. Doedicurises, common in the fertile zone, are also invaluable for gathering stone, and there should be plenty of high-level spawns just due to how common they are. Dung beetles, as mentioned earlier, produce oil and fertilizer and are found in the blue zones. The Equus, although prevalent across the map, tend to fall prey to Revengers because they can slow them down with their bleed attack, so you will find use out of them, but they could be more difficult to obtain than one may think. The Featherlight, a new light pet found primarily in the red zone. Featherlights are passive tames best approached with plant species Z seeds. Their ability to fly, however, can make taming very challenging, especially in dangerous areas, so it is often advised to try and get them to a specific corner or even to trap them to make the process easier. Giant bees are fairly common in the fertile zone, and you can often find them near lakes or a whole bunch of hives fairly close together. Glowbugs are an abundant and non-aggressive creature, and they can recharge your items or be consumed by your frogs for cementing paste, and no other creature in the game will actually aggro onto them, meaning there should always be quite a few of them to go through and consume. Glowtails, another rare new light pet, are best tamed again with the plant species Z seeds, and they are found in the artifact caves, with the fertile zone cave being the easiest place to find one early on. Carcanos, the giant crabs of Aberration. Carcanos can be found in the rivers of the fertile zone and the lakes of the bioluminescent area. They can be extremely dangerous early on, as they are able to pick up 2 different creatures at once, one in each claw, and they can even snatch survivors off their mounts. Now when tamed, Carcanos are invaluable for carrying resource-gathering creatures like Ankylos, as they can actually swing for the metal without ever having to set them down. There is also an alpha variant of said Carcanos, and they typically are found in the bioluminescent cave area, so you definitely want to go through and watch out for them. Then we have the Lamprey, Aberration's version of a leech. Lampreys attach to you and slowly drain your health, but also grant radiation immunity. This makes them useful for doing daring explorations into the Rock Drake Trench without a radiation suit. Just ensure you do pack some climbing picks, the glide suit, and a couple of healing items, and a campfire to burn that guy off once you have collected your egg and climb your way out. Then we have the Megalosaurus, found in the blue zone. The Megalosaurus is far more dangerous on Aberration due to the perpetual nighttime conditions which keep them at their strongest. They are often used for boss fights or even just navigating the blue and the red zones. Nameless, as discussed earlier, these creatures can be kept at bay with the light pets, but they are relentless if you fail to maintain your light source. You can also go through and use some of the new light weapons to go through and keep them at bay, or simply just zap them them back into the ground. Otters are found in the lakes and the rivers of Aberration, and they're often found near the bottom of the water away from the chaotic surface battles, and of course they are always helpful because they can carry more than one artifact. Avises are plenty across the map in the fertile region, providing a reliable source of mutton. Now, Palavias do make their dreaded return, and they are located in the element region, and they of course are dangerous as they are camouflaged, so do be careful when exploring with smaller creatures. Now, raptors, although outclassed by Revengers, wild raptors in Aberration are far more lethal than their non-aberrant counterparts. With a pounce ability, they can unseat you from your mount. Be careful when you are navigating areas where raptors are present and riding anything that is smaller than a stegosaurus. Now, Revengers are essentially the staple creature for Aberration. If it's not the rock drake, it's the Revenger. Revengers are wolf-like creatures found in packs. They deal bleed damage, can ride ziplines, and have a 50% weight reduction for key resources, making them essential for any playthrough. And then you have one of the scariest creatures in Ark, the Reaper. They are formidable enemies, especially on the surface. Now, to tame one, though, you must find a female Reaper in the element region, trap her, and allow her to impregnate you. Then, while the baby is inside you, you need to go on a massive spree and defeat as many creatures as possible to gain as much experience as possible for said creature. Just ensure you do have a bed, and you potentially go through and trap yourself in a house or a room right before the baby pops out and actually kills you. That way, when you do spawn back in, you can easily go through and imprint on them. Otherwise, they can run away very, very fastly. And then we have the Roll Rat. Found in the Fertile Zone, Roll Rats are excellent for farming wood. They also have the ability to roll at high speeds, destroying virtually anything in their path. Seekers are essentially the opposite of Nameless, and Seekers are attracted to light and become more powerful when exposed to it. They are found on the surface, in caves, and in the blue and the red zones. Then there is the Shinehorn, a new light pet found in the blue zone. Shinehorns are also tamed with the plant species Z seeds. Finally, there are two new creatures that are set to debut in Aberration for ASA, the Yeeling, which has a gliding ability, and the Cosmo, a light pet that allows you to swing through the air like Spider-Man. Grappling hooks are not allowed on Aberration, making the Cosmo a highly anticipated addition, and the Yeeling just seems like a smaller version of a rock drake, but with some cool other abilities. And then just ensure that if you are not already, then you consider subscribing to see full guides on both of those creatures with the release of Aberration. And last but most certainly not least, the Rock Drake. Stealing a Rock Drake egg in Aberration is one of the most challenging tasks in the game. Unlike Wyvern eggs, you can't use flyers, which makes the first egg heist particularly treacherous. To even reach the Rock Drake nest, you must ascend to the deepest part of the map, either on foot or with tames. And if you fail to steal the egg or survive the attempt, you'll face a long and dangerous trek back to the nesting grounds to try yet again. The Rock Drake Crunch is swarming with these dangerous creatures, both on the ground and clinging to the walls. Engaging one Rock Drake often means taking on several at once. To survive, you'll either need a highly powerful mount or a caravan of creatures to battle your way through. Now, a riskier but faster option is to descend without tameness, relying on your glide suit, multiple sets of climbing picks, a hazard suit, and a zipline motor and zipline anchors. While Rock Drakes can't follow you on the ziplines particularly, they can destroy them in just 1 or 2 hits if they attack, so you do need to proceed with caution. And they can climb faster than you can with the climbing picks. Now, once you have successfully tamed a Rock Drake, it will make traversing Aberration significantly easier. They're invaluable for farming loot on the surface and will alert you to nearby Reapers by causing their feathers to stand up and glow. As a story map, Aberration reintroduces Explorer Notes, which play a crucial role in the leveling process. You can even find an Explorer Note immediately upon spawning in if you choose the Portal Room as your starting location. Now, of course, some of the key story elements on Aberration include the 3 artifact caves, each housing an essential artifact. The first cave is the Old Railway Cave, located in the Fertile Zone, and this cave contains the artifact of the Depths. The second cave is the Hidden Grotto Cave, situated in the bioluminescent area, and this cave holds the artifact of the Shadows. And the third cave is the Elemental Vault Cave, found in the Element Zone, and this cave is home to the artifact of the Stalker. You'll need these 3 artifacts along with some other boss tributes to go through and face the overseer of this map, Sir Edmund Rockwell. This boss fight can be challenging, especially for first-timers. A common strategy, though, involves distracting the Reapers with other creatures or teammates while you circle Rockwell and use a shotgun to target his tentacles and dodging his attacks. Now, in this final section of this guide, I want to further elaborate on certain topics that were previously discussed, as well as share other helpful tips and include certain aspects of the maps where I just didn't know simply where else to put them. Alright, so when it comes to the surface, I actually excluded this from the biome region because I felt like it needed its own dedicated section. Now, early on in your playthrough, the green zone entrance is the best way to reach the surface, and you can use the climbing picks to scale the walls or a zipline anchor with a Revenger to ascend. However, when gathering resources early on, it is wise to bring a pack of raptors for the pack buff. Combine that with mate boost and the bleed damage, and they should hold off the Reapers long enough for you to gather what it is that you need and retreat underground. underground. Also ensure that you do bring a light pet to weaken the Reapers, but be mindful that also buff Seekers, so managing your light is crucial for your survival. Alright, now let's talk about uploads and downloads and the risks or the rewards. So each of the three main regions has an entrance to the surface leading to different areas with distinct obelisks. Though the obelisks appear broken, they still function for uploading and downloading survivors, dinos, and items. And this is risky because you can only access the surface at night, and during the upload or download process you are vulnerable to attacks from Seekers and Reapers or even players on PvP servers. Now on PvP servers or even on servers in general, you can use the underground loot drops to upload your character and your creatures. But in single player mode, your only other option is the tech transmitter. Now the tech transmitter is also useful for boss fights, as you can upload your creatures via the tech transmitter and then download them at the boss terminal, saving you the hassle of navigating a large army through all of these zones. Alright, now let's talk about these giant green stations you've seen floating around everywhere. The charge stations are scattered all throughout the main regions and on the surface. They serve multiple purposes: crafting element, charging batteries, and providing a small sense of security by emitting light similar to that of light pads. If your light pad's charge depletes in dangerous regions, retreat to the nearest charge station. While it won't stop Nameless from spawning, it will apply the same debuff as a light pad, eventually causing the Nameless to burrow back underground. But be cautious not to overuse the charge station, as crafting element or charging too many batteries will put it into an overcharged state, disabling its functions for 33 minutes and 30 seconds. Now, surface charge nodes do charge batteries twice as fast, but the dangers of the surface often outweigh the benefits. Alright, now let's further elaborate on the charge lanterns that I previously mentioned. If you're exploring and your light pad charge runs out and there's not a charge station nearby, a charged lantern can be a lifesaver. Now, charged lanterns have two modes. They can be fired like a weapon to hit nearby enemies, which is useful when mounted on smaller creatures or if you're simply on foot and just on the move. They can also, though, be placed on the ground to create a safe zone, if you will. If you stand directly in the middle of the light will actually freeze all of the Nameless prior to them being able to get to you and eventually cause them to burrow back underground. Now, if you do need more space due to having creatures or additional players with you, then go through and just utilize multiple charge lanterns. Now, speaking of light pets, let's talk about them. When it comes to differences, there is of course the very obvious aesthetic appeal to a specific one, with the bulldog basically being an alien-like pug, a dog lover's absolute dream, the cute little gecko, the adorable little goat, and the majestic flying glowtail. So even though they do all emit light and provide the same utility as all light pets in general, they actually have some differences on how their light can be utilized. Now, the bulldog has the lowest charge regen and the lowest range, but they actually have roughly 21% more health and 20% more weight than all of their light pets, making it the tankiest and the most useful as an extra backpack. It can also breathe underwater, and it will eat both meat and berries. Now, the Shinehorn is a solid all-around pet with the third lowest range but identical charge regen to the Featherlight. It is also easier to feed and raise, as it does also eat berries, and it can carry more than both the Glowtail and the Featherlight. Now, the Featherlight's ability to fly allows it to avoid damage from many ground-based creatures. It is fast but frail and cannot take many hits. Now, if one wanted to, they could go through and allow the Featherlight to actually float directly behind them by simply just setting them to follow and throwing them on the ground, and they will go through and fly behind you. This would allow you to go through and have a second shoulder pet, whether that be another light pet or an otter, for example, to get a second artifact. Now, the Glowtail has the best usable charge stats. Technically, the Featherlight will have the highest light range earlier on, but as you start to invest more levels in it, the Glowtail will actually surpass it in pretty much every other stat. The only problem is that the Glowtail tends to be the most difficult of the four to actually raise. Now, light pets also offer additional abilities such as max level creature detection. When the light pet is on your shoulder and the light is turned on, an icon will appear on your screen. If the icon is yellow, it will indicate a wild max level creature, and if it is red, it indicates another player or their max level creature. Alright, now let's move on over to some exotic flora introduced with Aberration. Aberration introduces the plant species Z, a strange yet friendly plant. Standing near a wild one will actually revitalize any player and tame creature that has not taken damage in the last 5 minutes. Now, to obtain a seed, one must stand near the plant for 60 to 70 seconds until it withdraws its tentacle, and it will then expel a seed. Now, if one wishes to acquire more than one seed, all they need to do is just stand there for another cycle, and it will spit out another seed, and you can continue this process until you have as many as you'd like. Now, once planted in a large crop plot, it will produce a plant species Z fruit, which can be used as flashbang grenades to blind both survivors and creatures. Then the last notable thing is that when standing near a wild or even a domesticated crop plot version of this plant species Z, they will go through and emit light similar to that of white pets, which will go through and scare away the Nameless. Alright, now let's talk about some spawn points and base locations. The portal is listed as the easiest spawn area, but it does have its challenges. In PvP, it's a popular spawn point, and the area is not as safe as it's made out to be. There's no water, so once your hydration depletes, you will need to use aquatic mushrooms to stay hydrated until you drop down to the next area. Also, basilisks often spawn here, and they are fast and dangerous, especially since movement speed can't be leveled in ASA. They will outrun you, so avoid them until later in the game. Now, a great spot for a first base on a small server or in single player is the small lake to the right after exiting the portal area. It has metal nodes, crystal deposits, silica pearls on the water, and is near the first artifact cave. The water is also free of predators, and the lake's island is far enough away from land that nothing should aggro onto you. You then also have the flexibility of expanding this base at a later point when you unlock the actual platform, so you can build both down below and up above. Alright, now here's some final notes and just some random miscellaneous tips. Now, crafting the radiation or the hazard suit is essential for progression, but it can be expensive. So until you are familiar with the aberration itself, it is typically good to walk around in said hazard suit. However, once you have a better understanding, it is typically better to swap that out for flak armor, as flak armor is typically easier to go through and acquire and repair. Now, one resource I didn't mention earlier is biotoxin. Besides harvesting it from jellyfish, you can actually obtain it by harvesting the mushrooms that cause these status effects. So the blue mushrooms with the rings around the bottom and the red triangle mushrooms, just ensure you are wearing a hazard suit when you are looking to harvest the biotoxin. Now, lastly, I just want you to know I did not provide GPS coordinates for anything because in ASA the coordinates have in fact been altered from ASE. I've just given you the general areas to look for important resources and locations, and I wanted to avoid providing any sense of false information. Alright, well, that is all the information that I could gather for this guide. There is so much to cover in Aberration, so I possibly could have missed something, but if you did enjoy the video or you learned something new, please let me know down in the comments, and if you have additional tips or think that I did miss something important, please feel free also to share that in the comments. Now, if you are curious about some decent traps for smaller creatures that could be relevant in Aberration, or want to know more about the polymer breakdown I mentioned earlier, then I recommend you check out these videos here.